So, hello and welcome to this week's Behind the Hub. Thank you for taking the time to join us. This is one of our first 2024 discussions about all things HubSpot, and I am lucky to be joined by Nicholas Holland, who doesn't need an introduction, but just in case anyone doesn't know who you are, Nicholas, can you give us a little bit of an introduction?
Sure. So I'm Nicholas Holland. I am a VP at HubSpot, been there for, I guess, about 8.5 years. I'm responsible for our marketing portfolio. So there's two hubs that fall under that. That's kind of what we sell product-wise, or hubs. So it's Marketing Hub, which is like lead generation and marketing automation. And the other one is CMS Hub, which is like where you build all your content.
Amazing. Great. So now on to why we're here, which is go to market. And I think to start with, let's strip it down a little bit to the basics, because I think right now marketing is getting harder across digital platforms. So how do you think that businesses can break through the noise when introducing something new to the market in 2024?
We've been having an interesting perspective shift internally about technology is making things easier. So there's a phrase that our founder, Halligan, said, which is, it's never been easier to do business. It's never been easier to start a business, never been easier to support a business, but it's never been harder to grow a business. And it's an interesting phrase because technology has really continues to equalize so many companies. It continues to make things more, easier and at everyone's fingertips. So there's still a bunch of laggards. So, I don't know where the audience here is, but if you're still kind of, let's say, behind on technology to your peers, you're in trouble for a different reason. Mm-hmm. And, we tend to think about, in the United States, there's an index of companies called the S&P 500. It's like the 500 largest companies. And one of the more interesting concepts is, like, if you just go back over 25 years, like something like 70 or 80% of those companies that are on there now weren't on there in the past. And so you're just looking at, like, in a 20-year cycle, an absolute changing of the guards, a huge evolution, a shift. And that's because of technology. And there were many people on a variety of, spectrums that were, early adopters, middle adopters, and a bunch of laggards. So, if you're still a laggard, you've maybe got a unique industry, you've been protected, or maybe your competition isn't that good, but it's coming. It's coming, make no mistake. What I think is equally interesting is that there are a bunch of people who are already using technology to the best of their capabilities. And there's a new problem emerging. So again, just to keep it super simple, if you're not using a lot of technology to drive efficiency and innovation and kind of, better performance of your business, that is a problem for you versus those who are. Then you move over to all the people using technology right now, of which there are a lot. There's a different issue that's coming up, which is it's like a reversion to the mean, what we call it, kind of like everyone's going to the same spot. And that effectively just absolutely creates this very, very crowded landscape. So it's super easy to distinguish yourself from those who are technology laggards, but very hard to distinguish yourself from those who are technology adopters. So there is this thought process that's emerging, especially with AI being so top of mind for a lot of people. We are obviously building it into our products, and we have to spend a ton of time being on the forefront of it. There's an emerging concept coming up that all of this technology effectively gives you back more time so that you can focus on creativity.
Yes.
And that is a very strange come full circle, is that technology basically has equalized for those who've adopted it, speed, efficiency, being able to, utilize data, insights, make decisions. But what technology doesn't do is capture creativity. And what really is frustrating for a lot of people is that if you know you're creative, you grin and smile and go, oh man, this is about to be fun. But if you aren't creative, this can be quite scary. And I think that's what's coming next. I think AI and the technology trends is going to crack open a world where people who are creative and interesting are going to do really well, and people who aren't are going to still struggle. That's always been a universal thing, but I think it's going to get worse now that like AI can help you write everything. I think everybody will be writing all the things, but only a handful of people will be interesting.
Yes, I think we have that discussion quite a lot internally where AI can write you a blog, but it can't story tell like a person can. It can help you maybe tidy up your structure, do the fixing your grammatical mistakes and things, but it doesn't capture people, right? So I think back at Inbound, I heard Yamini say, or I can't remember if it was Yamini or not, but AI isn't going to take your jobs. It's gonna make your job easier. And I think that kind of encapsulates what you've just.
And we also talk about, we don't think AI will replace people wholesale. What we do think the next wave is going to be people who learn to use AI will replace people. In the world of marketing, and I don't know if any of your customers kind of feel this, but it's fascinating how back whenever I used to own an agency and I would do digital services, and I would talk to somebody and I would say, all right, do you need, we're going to do something like a website. This is an easy one. We're going to do a website. Mm-hmm. And I would say, can you design? And they'd be like, no, I can't design. And you say, okay, cool. We've got designers. And you would say, can, at the end of the day, do you have developers? You say, no, I don't know how to develop. I can't do that. And then I would say, okay, great. So we've got the designers, developers. And I would say, and then so when it comes to copy, how do you want to handle it? And they would almost always go, I'm going to write it. I'm going to write it. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and I had to gently always talk to these people. And I would say, oh, okay. So like you have copywriters on staff? And they're like, no, I know how to write.
I can write. I can write.
Like, are you sure? And then they would create just, not great content. And it's a very common thing because the marketer who obviously writes emails all day long and has to put together reports for leadership, they mistakenly think that because they know how to do business writing, that they're actually going to be able to do marketing writing, that they're creative, that they're interesting, that they're pithy, and they're not. And I'll say to like whoever's listening right now, the vast majority of us, myself included, you're not that interesting. You're not that interesting. And the deal is you're not a great writer. You're not Hemingway. You're not Stephen King. You're not that. And so the fact is, just because you are able to mechanically do something doesn't make you good at it. I draw excellent little stick figure pictures with my daughter. I am not an artist. That's about the equivalent of most of the marketers and salespeople I talk to. They think because they are able to type day in and day out that they are writers, and they are not. So the reason why I think that's all interesting is because that, being able to use AI and things like that will actually also become an art. A lot of people don't know that, but I today think that, there's a lot of companies that came out that basically are just a wrapper for ChatGPT.
Yes.
And they're a wrapper for it, and then they charge you an extra amount of money to sit on top of ChatGPT. And that's not going to fly. And in fact, we put out a bunch of features at HubSpot this last year. When you're writing inside of our editor, it'll summarize, or you can do a / rewrite this, or just a handful of like little writing assistants. And everybody was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And oh, wow, I didn't know this. But there's a gap between what the world at large understands and what, ChatGPT, what they know it can do. Mm-hmm. But companies that just do that are going to quickly become boring. They're going to quickly become commoditized. And so you have to go to the next level, which is how do you get more out of these tools? And so I think, for a lot of marketers in particular, and salespeople, frankly, basically business professionals, I ask all the time, hey, have you used any sort of ChatGPT type stuff? And they're, oh, yeah, I know all about it. And I'm like, great. The first question I ask is, tell me how you've used it in a production environment. Tell me a single artifact that you've actually made that you put out into the real world. Mm-hmm. And I am telling you right now, it's like 80 or 90% of the people I talk to have never actually used it in a production environment. And the 10 to 20% I do that have, I immediately have this like connection with them, because what they know is that it has made them infinitely faster but it is also awful at the same time.
Really bad quality.
It is really bad quality. And so the deal is that humans who know that, who have that understanding that like, wow, this saved me on an 8-hour project, this saved me 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But had I just used the 2 hours and submitted this as my work, I'd have lost my job. That is a fascinating balance. And that's why I think this next wave, at least for the next 2 or 3 years, I think it's going to be humans who understand that and learn how to work with these new tools that are going to become incredibly important to their employers, incredibly important if they start their own businesses. So anyways, long answer, but that's what's on my mind.
And a long answer, but insightful. And I think I feel like I need a whole new Behind the Hub to talk about this as well. But going back to kind of go to market, you kind of talked a little bit, I think, about your considerations, especially with the whole ChatSpot side of things. But your considerations when taking a new product to market, what are they?
Well, it depends. So let's say we're going to take a product out to our enterprise tier. That tier, they value stability, they value scale. They basically want to make sure that at the end of the day, when they put it into production, they can depend on it. They're not looking to be the guinea pig. They're not looking to experiment. So that's like an upmarket type mindset. If we're coming out with something very new, then we traditionally try it in one of our lower tiers, or we're trying to do something where it's like an optional thing that you can pick. So that way you don't risk anybody's existing business processes whenever you put it out. Then when you put it out, then you begin to figure out from that strategy what you do for it. And this could be very much related to SaaS. It's not quite as related to physical goods, but you either begin an evolutionary process with a product or you begin a de-evolutionary process with a product. And so I'll give you an example. If I put out something like customer journey analytics, we spent a long time building it, making sure it was good, working with a lot of upmarket customers. We put it out there and it's a very sophisticated type product because effectively it's like it's the North Star for all marketing. Can I see the customer journey? Can I understand what's working, what's not?
Exactly.
So this is one where we have to basically devolve the actual product now, because we've built this wonderful product at the enterprise level, but there are customers at the pro level who go, man, I would love to know kind of what's happening with my customers, or, you know, like with multi-touch revenue attribution, they're like, I would love to know if this campaign's influencing stuff. Asking a pro level customer to have this complete set of integrations, this data completeness, be an expert at reporting, that's too far. It's a bridge too far. But being able to show that when they're just inside of an email campaign or inside of an overall marketing campaign, just a very simplistic, this is the revenue influence, that's easy. Happens out of the box, they didn't have to do it. So that then basically gets to the point where we also will devolve that even more and bring it something down to like our free and starter, where it's like, what's your goal? And then we'll show kind of how you're doing against your goals. That is a process where if we start with something sophisticated, we try our best to make, here at HubSpot at least, the most sophisticated things. We try to give flavors of those so that over time you have a nice continuous stripe that says like, do you want to know if your marketing is working? And that looks a certain way for the beginners. It looks another way for the professionals. It looks another way for the advanced. The reverse is like even with the AI stuff, we put it out there. So it's very basic. So what we didn't want is someone to go, man, this is just ChatGPT. So we decided first we had to integrate it into our product, make it easy, figure out the UX patterns and how we do that. But now we're working on an evolutionary pattern. So I'll give you an example. This is public. But some of our customers go, listen, I know how to use ChatGPT. I need more from you. So one of the areas we started with was like topic suggestions. When we talk with people, they're like, I'm not creative. I don't have any ideas. I need some help. So we decided to co-mix 3 different things. We mixed something like OpenAI, aka give me some ideas. But we then grabbed data from vendors like SEMrush to mix that with the data to show what do people out in the real world, what are they looking for, search volumes, Google Trends. We bring that in. And then we go grab data from your existing portal. That's what we call it, like where you've been working for a while, and we see what your customers are interested in. So let's pause. For the first time now, you are a marketer. You've got a very basic problem. We all have it, which is it's Monday morning. I'm tired. I don't know how to basically get my creative juices going.
Yes.
On the flip side, what we did is we said, instead of you just being it coming out of thin air or you having to hire the most creative people, we said, why don't we basically take what we know about your business? Why don't we take what we know about the world? And why don't we take what we know about your customers? And then we come up with a set of topics that you can then decide to run with. That is just a very, very like tight little loop that already we put it out to customers, and then they're inspired. And we're not trying to basically say we're going to do an auto content factory and put it out there and you don't have any involvement. No, we're walking beside you. So effectively, we're now pulling that in. Now you have topic suggestions. It can give you an outline for you to think about. Now you're typing and smiling and happy. You're creative. You put a couple of funny, pithy comments in there or really, interesting data tied to your industry, and you're off to the races. That is an amazing combo right there. But that is where now we're evolving the simple stuff that we did to the next level. And then over time, we'll continue to learn from customers and we'll get better and better and better. And so that's where I think that you take simple products and then you begin to evolve them as customers have more sophisticated needs, or you serve a very, very advanced use case and you begin to get back to the core business problem. And then you basically devolve that to more and more simplistic stuff for the less sophisticated customers. And then they have a North Star that they want to grow to. And that's ultimately what it comes down to, is that day one, when I start my company in the past, I mean, my God, I'm just trying to get a website going and like my marketing looked like, am I able to get a single thought leadership piece out once a quarter?
Yeah.
But then as you become a much more mature business, it looks wildly different. So that's how we bring it to market. The other part is the last thing you didn't ask is that when we bring it to market too, the other thing that we try to do, and I don't know if this is relevant to your customers, but when we bring stuff to market, we try to make sure that nothing is an island.
Okay, so everything's connected to something.
Everything's connected. So, you effectively are trying to build a brand. And when you build a brand, it's just a very simple thing of saying, like, that's what I'm known for. And if you think about, one of the more famous brands like Apple, if out of the blue, you found out that they started selling a excellent window cleaning solution, can you imagine the like bizarre? You'd be like, I'm sorry, did you say like Windex? That's what they're doing? You're like, yes, Apple's Windex is going to be like taking them out. It would be so brain busting. People couldn't get it. And then that product may or may not do well because it gets none of the lift or so Apple needs to think through logically whenever they do something, not only how is it related to they could do anything in the world. They're one of the richest companies. And I'm sure there's a bunch of areas where there's like an unmet need and they could make billions of dollars, but they have to think about how does that extend and connect back to the brand. So that's the other part, that when we do something, we're trying to always tie things back to the HubSpot story.
That makes sense. And I think what kind of ties into all of that, with what you've just said, is no matter if you're evolving or devolving, the kind of core thing that you do is you make somebody feel valuable. So even if they're on a free or starter hub pricing model, you're still giving them something. It just isn't quite the same. Sure. You're still giving them value. They're still as valuable. They still get something, whether it's a different version. Yeah. And with the evolving, it's so personal. Like the AI, it's taking your portal into consideration, right? You're making everyone feel special.
Yeah. So just try to meet people where they are, and that's an area that I think a lot of businesses tend to talk very robotically. They're like, this is my customer. And I could talk to a marketer, and in the same conversation they tell me how much they care about personalization.
Yes.
And then I ask them about their customers, and they have a gelatinous blob description for everybody. They're like, I sell to Marketing Mary, who looks like a soccer mom. And I'm like, wait a minute, how many customers do you have? And they're like, we have 10,000 customers. And I'm like, you think 10,000 people are all the same? Like, are you sure you couldn't do one more double click to find a little bit more of a detail in there? But, that's an area where as you're larger, your customer base does begin to change. Even in the marketing, that's what we call ours. Even in the marketing Mary concept, what you really have is like a corporate Kathy. So like she's dealing with different issues than marketing Mary, or a growth Gary. They're dealing with different issues than the marketing Mary, or an internet Ian, who's like the growth hacker and do it. And so you begin to get better and better about dealing with those audiences. That's how you begin to get better and better about personalization as well. There's not a gelatinous blob persona followed by everybody is a unique snowflake. There's like a continuum in there. And that's how the products have to basically come to market as well, which is over time, certain customers are better for certain products, certain tiers, certain levels, certain amounts of, customer support and all that.
Okay, that's really interesting. And you kind of mentioned already the like enterprise, pro, free, etc. So if somebody is looking to take a new product to market, what are some essential elements of a pricing strategy that they need to think about?
Pricing, it's like it is probably the hardest thing that I have done at HubSpot.
That's a big statement as well.
Yeah, I was going to say after 9 years and hundreds of products, pricing is extremely hard. Pricing is an emotional conversation. Pricing is a financial responsibility conversation. Pricing is a conversation that sets the tone for your relationship with the customer. Pricing is something that obviously has deep relations to how people have other choices, switching costs. So I think that, business 101 is that businesses are here to make money, and that in a capitalistic market, you're trying to maximize the amount of money that you can make in exchange for services or goods. That's kind of like basics.
Yes.
What it really comes down to, though, is that you have to factor in so many qualitative type decisions into your pricing. So let's just take a professional services firm. You're just getting started. You have no reputation, no portfolio, all that stuff. Well, your price is going to bear the brunt of that. You haven't really earned the ability to charge even a base rate because you aren't a basic firm yet. So in the beginning days, when I had my services firm, I would always do 3 free engagements per product line or service that I did.
Okay.
So that I could basically have an exchange for them to be a reference and a case study, et cetera. So in that particular model, what was my pricing and packaging? It was free. And it was in exchange for a bunch of social credibility and experience and things like that. It was almost like it was a paid internship where they were giving me a good reference.
Yes.
As I became larger and better, then effectively, I would do, more price conscientious customers. They were like, if they had tons of money, why would they hire the unproven vendor? So that's one where my price was consistent with my reputation. Then you move into the next level, which is you developed a good reputation, you have a good body of work. Now you're charging in line with what other competitors are doing out there. So it's called local consistent pricing. If right now, most of the vendors in town did $100 or $150 an hour, and I was $600 an hour, what a strange model. They'd be like, wow, this person's very expensive, but also way outside of what we do. There's also local consistency. If everybody charges one way and you charge a different way, this is one that I ran into, which is there's pricing models. There's a usage-based pricing model. It's like, hours is a usage-based one, or however many email sends you send, or something like that. There is a tariff model, they call it, which is, once you go to this level, you get all of these bundled offerings for this particular thing. And then you move into, some sort of like hybrid model, like seats is a tariff tied back to human usage. And so that's another model that's out there. So anyways, now you've got a bunch of things that go into it, which is where are you in the competitive landscape?
Yeah.
Where are you in the like what's locally consistent for the things that you do. Of course, any business gets to make any choice they want with all of this, but the less consistent you are, the more, cognitive overload customers have to make a decision. The more expensive you are, the more cognitive overload. The less experience and credibility, the more cognitive overload. So now that you have all of that in alignment, I just told you all of that without even talking about the products and the services.
Yeah.
And the question that really comes down to me for a bunch of companies is like, which one's in the lead? Gets fascinating. Right now, if I ask your agency, you guys do great work. Mm-hmm. I come to you, I talk to Eric, your leader, and I come in and I convince you that you're no longer doing hourly. You're no longer even doing fixed fee. Now I come in and I say, you're nothing but a value-based agency. You say, oh my God, Nicholas, what's a value-based? And I say,
I am about to ask that.
You are going to prove the value that you create, and you're going to collect 50% of the value that you collect. So every pitch to every customer is, we're going to save you money or make you money. Mm-hmm. We're going to calculate that number, and then you're going to pay us 50% of what that looks like. This is a dream state, by the way, for almost every consulting agency, because all incentives are perfectly aligned. But only a few consulting agencies have ever been able to pull this off, because it's very challenging to make a direct line between what you did and how much money was made. I'll give you an example. We have this at HubSpot. Let's say you come in and you implement a new platform like HubSpot, you reboot the sales team, and they make more money this next year than they did this previous year. Mm-hmm. Well, when you sit down with the CEO, they're going to be like, well, you guys did a good job for sure. I don't want to take that away from you. But we also spent a lot of money on ads. Yeah. And we also launched a new product. And we also got a new sales leader. And so it's very difficult whenever you're changing many knobs and dials at the same time to do that. And so think about it. In that model, which one wins? If I say you have to be a value-based firm, you would quickly change the types of products and services that you would do to things that are easier to prove. On the reverse side, if you're doing something like you do right now, where you can't prove the value directly because you're changing lots of knobs and dials, well, to get the fair value for what you do, you switch over to a fixed fee engagement or an hourly engagement, et cetera. That's what makes pricing and packaging so hard, is that often companies haven't picked which one's the leader. Mm-hmm. So products and prices, products come out that are incompatible with the existing pricing, and reverse, people make pricing changes that are incompatible with the existing products. So that's why you'll read a lot of times about the 4 or the 5 Ps when you do a product. It's the pricing, the positioning, the packaging, the people that it serves, and that's kind of how we look at it.
And there's always going to be somebody internally that thinks it should be one thing and somebody else that thinks it should be another thing.
Because of those 4 Ps, different people own different ones. So, in almost every company, somebody owns the people. That's like the sales team or the marketing team. Somebody owns the positioning. That's usually the marketing team. Sometimes the C-suite. Somebody owns the packaging. That's going to usually be a combination between the C-suite and that. And then the pricing is often, for most smaller companies, it's the lagging indicator, which is, somebody, kind of a finance person, usually has a say on that at some point in time. Mm-hmm. Like, guys, we're not making money. So now think about it. We got to get those 4 big heads into a room and have everybody say the same thing. So does the marketer lead with the positioning and everything else comes into play? We want to be the best at X. Mm-hmm. That's where the product person goes, oh, we don't even sell X. So then does the product person go and say, I decided to build this product, and everybody in the company is like, Windex? That doesn't make any sense. So now you got it. And so then the same thing goes, the CEO come in there and goes, I've decided we're going to build this product and this is going to be our positioning. This is where the CFO whispers, how are we going to make money? Mm-hmm. And on and on and on. And so that's, a lot of companies kind of organically fall into this. They kind of have a bunch of tension. They kind of have like tastemakers on the inside who for a while figure it out, but then the company either outgrows the tastemaker moves on for whatever reason. And this is the reason why, coming all the way back to, the majority of the S&P companies that exist today were not there 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And would you have any specific advice? Have you had any experience with HubSpot where you've had to maybe convince people round to maybe like the freemium model that you've grown? I'm sure there would have been some people there that were like, this is not going to work.
Yeah. Well, the freemium model came about from the C-suite. Mm-hmm. And so it took a business visionary to get us there. And it then moved into, it's obviously a pricing and packaging play, which then obviously led into a product play. But the business saw that effectively we were competing with other competitors that when we talk to the customers, we always put the customer first. When we talk to the customers, they constantly said how hard it was to buy from other people. Like, to go through a buying process with some of these upmarket vendors, requires an RFP and a whole committee and 6 months and evaluation and, and then you have to do a paid trial. And then in addition to all that, once you sign, you're often on the hook for a 3 to 5 year engagement. Yeah. And it's terrifying. So many of our customers said, this is the bad part of working with your competition. And we thought to ourselves, dang, how could we change that? So the second part is that we were wanting to offer software in a very mature space. And so, imagine if I come to you right now and I'm like, hey, I've invented a new car. I don't know if it's safe.
I don't know if it's safe.
I don't know if it'll get you from point A to point B. Yeah. I don't know if it'll get you from point A to point B. Not real sure that the seatbelts work. Radio might. Yeah, I don't know. And it looks kind of good. And I had this idea for what could be an awesome car at some point. Would you like to buy it? And you're like, I would not like to buy that. Yeah, I would not. But it's crazier. Even if I tried to give it to you for free, there's a bunch of people who go, no. Yeah. So now the fascinating question is, I'm stuck. I want to build a car. I have a vision for a car that's going to be better than any other car that's out there. But I have to basically get clock cycles to learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, how am I going to learn how to do it? So one of the ways you do that is you put something out there for free. And there are early adopters who, for example, you wouldn't want to buy it. But let's roll the clock back to whenever you were 16. Let's roll the clock back to you say, Mom, Dad, I need a car. And they say, we can't afford it. And there are places that you want to go each weekend. Mm-hmm. And you see an ad in the paper that says free vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Snapping that right up. Yeah.
Totally. And you're duct taping yourself in. You're wearing tying ropes.
It'll be fine.
You're trying your best. You're driving. Yeah, whatever. You're trying. But you are. And so then when you drive that horrible car and you're like, yo, check it. The radio is awful. I wish it was like this. Then the car maker's like, and now the radio problem solved. Yeah. If they're like, the steering wheel is too loose, now it's solved. And so, you then go, I want a car that won't kill me. So you decide to go buy a new car, or you crash and it does kill you, which I know is kind of morbid in the world of CRM. Like it has a real problem. And we go, dang, that wasn't really good. That killed her. Let's fix that problem. But the problem is that that's how we started off with our CRM. It didn't meet certain needs. It went down in the beginning. It had all these issues, but we were rapidly working through it. And so then you turn around twice and the vision we had for this great car, for this amazing CRM, began to become real. And for the first time, now we could go compete with the incumbent automakers with a new vision. And it came because we were able to do this free, find our people, exchange their usage and feedback for our development stuff. And now there's a greater and greater spectrum. So then you come out, if I say, hey, we've got 300,000 or 400,000 cars on the road. We've won a bunch of safety awards. Our radio is really good. We've got a pretty nice drive experience. Would you like this car for free? You're like, yes. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, actually.
Now, would a celebrity want our free car? Maybe not, because maybe they're still looking for a certain brand, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Would a person who's driving on construction sites want our car? Maybe not. Would a race car driver want our car? So, but now we've gotten to the point where it's good enough for a core part of the population. And then we get to make a decision on, do we start to charge more for it? Do we go specialized, et cetera? Yeah. And so that was a long answer, but that's why freemium came about, is because we needed to build a product that had a very high bar to become good. CRMs are very high bar.
Yeah.
And number two, for us to come out and charge for it, we didn't earn the right to charge for it. So we basically picked something that would allow us to learn, develop on the product, get better over time. And then serendipitously, we became known for that because after it gets to a certain quality level, going back to our 16-year-old standpoint, let's say that you were on the second or third cycle, you'd be calling every friend going, I cannot believe this. I just got a free car.
Yeah.
And now we
like me would be buying it.
Now we become known as the free car company. And so then it becomes an opportunity for us. And HubSpot we constantly wrestle with, should we start charging for the CRM? And we keep coming back to, no, we're known as the company with the free CRM. All the things that made people not like the other company is what we solve with this. And so over time, what we're trying to learn is, how do we make the CRM free forever? And then just get more intelligent when people are using it in a certain way or a certain level, et cetera, that then you basically pay for it. So anyways, lots of, answers there, but it's,
but a good one. And I think what really comes through that you guys do really well that you kind of mentioned there is like your values come through. Like you've done the freemium model because your value is you want to help everybody. And it is so good for your reputation that, yeah, you definitely can't get rid of that now.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, I think we have covered all of my questions, so going to wrap it up now. But thank you so much for all of your insight. I hope that everyone's enjoyed this episode. So make sure to hit the follow button and you can get notified of our future Behind the Hubs. And Nicholas, I hope in future we'll get to catch up again.
Yeah, call me anytime. You guys will be good.
Amazing. Thank you so much.